Hey guys, Max from MaksWerks here, and today we're going to be working on the WR250F. This video is actually broken into two parts. Part one is going to be me handling what I consider general maintenance, doing a little carb cleaning, basically a 101 on the WR250. The second video is actually going to be the full Trail Tech kit installation. I feel it's probably better to have that as a separate video in order to help split things up on YouTube. Anyway, we got some stuff we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing the air filter, the oil and oil filter. We're going to be doing, we're going to take the carb out. We're going to do a few of the mods, the blue wire mod and the gray wire mod, and I'll get more into that as we get there. But this will basically give you a 101, what you should do to basically free modifications and general maintenance on your WR250F. And this is pretty much applicable for all years. Some of the mods change a little bit between 01 through 03 and 04 through 06, but a lot of it is really similar. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and take care of the air filter, and there's two 10mm bolts that hold on the seat. This is the product we're going to be replacing with. It's a no-toil, pre-oiled oil filter. It's about 16 bucks. It's cheap, it's easy, and I really like it for kind of these smaller, not as high performance applications. So once you get the seat off, you can basically just reach in here to the air box. If you have a totally stock WR250, you're actually going to have a cover on here. It's going to be held on by 4 bolts. Pretty much the first thing any 250 owner should do is remove this airbox cover because it's super duper restrictive and there's absolutely no reason to have it. And you can actually remove it without any sort of jetting changes or making any other changes to the bike. Basically, you'll pick up more power and better efficiency just by unscrewing the airbox cover. So down here, there's basically just a long threaded bolt. Pull that out, just unscrews, got a little butterfly on the end of it. After you pull it out, pull the filter out, you're going to see the filter actually sits on a on this wire mesh holder. So what we're actually going to do is we're actually going to basically just pull that off, and you can see that's pretty old and dirty. Make sure you get the washer off of the front of it as well. I'm going to set that aside for a moment. We're going to open up our bag. The great thing about these no-toil filters is they really are no-toil. You just open them up, and you can see that I'm basically replaced an old no-toil with a brand new one. So these are already pre-oiled, ready to go. What you want to do is you want to look on the back. There's going to be this little holder thing, and what you want to do is you want to fit this inside like that. And you want to make sure that this little peg basically goes into its little holder, and that basically just helps you center the filter so it's sitting the way it's supposed to on the bike. This is actually going to go on here. It's just the washer. It's actually mounted like that right there. And if we grab this, I always like to kind of pre-thread to make sure that I'm centered on the piece inside, because that's what you want to make sure. You want to make sure you're actually centered on there. And then when you go down here, it actually has a V in there, so you want to make sure that this is vertical like that. And unfortunately it's pretty tight, so you just got to feel your way in there. But then you just tighten down the butterfly to where it feels comfortable, like that, and boom, new air filter in. Alright, the first free mod we're going to talk about is called the gray wire mod. And so over here is your ECU, and there's several looms that come off of it. There's these two big guys, and there's this one little 2-prong loom. And hopefully the camera can get this, but there's actually a black wire and a gray wire over there in the 2-wire loom. And this is the one you want, the black and gray wire. And what you want to do is you want to actually just remove this gray wire. Some people just straight up cut it. Normally, if I don't have to be destructive, I won't. So we're actually going to use a small screwdriver to pop this connection so it's disconnected. Now, the reason you want to do this is that these ECUs are the same for the YZ and the WR. However, when this gray wire is grounded, basically this gray wire is connected, it's connected to ground, it actually uses a special WR map, which gives you a little bit more bottom end supposedly, but it really drastically cuts down the top end. And if you're going to do carb modifications like we are and some of the other mods, it's really imperative to switch to get rid of this wire, and by getting rid of this wire it switches over to the YZ map. So all we're going to do is we're going to undo this connection, we're going to pop this wire out, zip tie it, and then use some electrician's tape and get it out of the way. There you can see the gray wire's just been popped out of the loom. What you want to use is a small screwdriver like this one. You get this for like eyeglasses and stuff like that. Basically once this is popped out, all you want to do is put it right here, zip tie it on, wrap it with electrician's tape just to seal it up, and then plug the connection back in, and you're done. So now let's talk about the blue wire mod. In this main pack right here, you can see there's a very light blue wire that runs right here, the 6-pin connection, and basically it runs down to the neutral indicator, and it lets you know, lets the bike know when it's in neutral, and actually it just adjusts spark timing that way. If you're having trouble kickstarting the bike, if you're having starting trouble in general, this will basically increase voltage to the spark plug under 2000 RPM, which is basically just kickstart and idle. However, it can give you a little bit of an erratic idle condition. So if you're mostly riding the bike a lot in that low RPM, if you're lugging through the woods and stuff, it might be worthwhile. If you're having trouble starting, it might be worthwhile. The way I ride the bike, it's not really a big deal for me. This bike starts great, so I'm actually going to leave it alone. But the same way that we did the other wire, you can actually just pop this light blue wire out of one of these ends, tape it up, and forget about it. So here's the carburetor. This is I believe a 37mm flat slide can CR unit. Cool carb. This one's actually already been modified in certain ways. One thing right here is normally there's a throttle stop right here. There's a much shorter one on the YZ than on the WR, so some people cut it down, some people straight up remove it, like this guy did. The AP adjustment, the AP mechanism is exactly the same. Hot, cold start. The only difference is it has this. It's an adjustable air pressure valve. And so what some people do is they'll block this off. And so, or you can basically eliminate the valve in here and change the air jet. The primary reason I took the carb off is because we're going to be installing a adjustable fuel screw in it. And I'm going to take a look, see what's going on in the bowl just to make sure everything's nice and clean. So since I actually have the bike running pretty well and this carb is fairly clean, we're just going to screw this back in and count how many turns so that when we put in the aftermarket fuel screw, the bike will still be running great. So there's a half a turn, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 2.5 and a little bit. So there it is installed. The carb was kind of dirty, a little bit dirty, so I cleaned it up, so hopefully it runs even better now. I backed this back out to 2.5 plus a little bit based on our reading of the stock unit. So it should go in just like it came out and basically operate exactly the same way. Alright, so the next thing we're going to talk about is oil changes. And I know you guys probably are like, Max, we're not retarded, we don't need an explanation of how to change the oil on the bike. But these bikes, these early 2000s WRs, YZ250 and 450 use a frame sump. And so it makes changing the oil a little bit more tricky than the obvious. And so I'm just going to walk through you guys real quickly. Obviously step number 1, this bike's been heated up. I just had it running outside for a little bit, so it's fully warmed up. The other thing is I have these old gloves from Harbor Freight, cost me a couple bucks. I wear a rubber nitrile glove underneath them, and that keeps my hands clean, and the leather keeps me from getting burnt. So that's just a little aside. So step number 1 is removing the dipstick, which is right up here in front of the tank behind the handlebars. Step number 2 is to drain this sump right here from this drain bolt right here. It's going to be a 12mm bolt, and we got a pan down here. It's actually going to shoot out quite a bit forward. I actually like to turn the wheel and get the pan as far forward as I can, and then the rest of it's going to drip down the skid plate and make a huge mess. And to date, I don't know of a better way than just toughing it out. I'm sure that somebody somewhere makes a product that like slots in here or something, but I haven't seen anything worthwhile. Now, the second plug is located right here on the bottom left-hand side of the motor. And as you can see, it sits right above the frame, so it's going to be a colossal mess as well. So here on the other side of the bike, we have the oil filter cap. And the oil filter actually has a separate drain screw right here. And it's going to be a 5mm hex head. So that's where the bolt came out of. And now normally I just did it, but what I do is I will actually take the bike and tilt it like this into the drain pan in order to let all of the oil come out of there. Then we're going to remove these two 8mm bolts, and then the filter will be right behind there, and we'll replace it with a brand new K&N unit. Now, with the cover off, you can see there's the filter right there, and these filters always mount with a little rubber part sticking out. So there's a big rubber part back here, and then there's a little rubber part right here, and that's what you want sticking out. So there's your old filter, nothing special. We're actually going to, I always like to clean out in here as well. We're actually going to be replacing it with a K&N unit 142, which is stock unit, just the K&N one. And there you go. You can see that they're the same damn thing. And we're actually going to stick that in there, like that. And then simply reinstall the cover. So this last part is pretty self-explanatory. Pour in oil on the top. I use Rotella tea, and works great. The bike should take 1.6 quarts with a filter change. One general note, I always have a can of brake clean with me when I do these to clean bikes, just any oil change or the truck or whatever. But this is probably the only bike I've ever seen where you literally have to clean everything after every step.